conditions of our facilities in light of the age of our school buildings built in the late 40s and early 50s, and the need to look at the 21st century learning models, Common Core, and other directions we'd like to move in that are embodied in our strategic plan and our LCFF, and the district's mission, and the conclusion that we would benefit by a facilities master plan, not only for our Fund 40 remaining funds, but also as we move forward in considering a bond measure in 2018. All of those will benefit by a facilities master plan that incorporates the vision the district has. We had as you may remember, a 2008 and 2013 master plan, but as I've said before, it was severely flawed. It was primarily a deferred maintenance plan. It was not about what does our board and our district think we should be doing in the future for our children, and what the shape of our facilities would look like, and how we can bring everyone into the 21st century, not only in terms of technology, but in terms of the learning environment. So, having said that, I'm asking for approval this evening of a RFP for a master plan. What I hope to do is, should the board approve this request for proposals, to move ahead tomorrow. I've gotten some recommendations of consultants and architects that would be well qualified from K&N. I also picked up the names of a number of firms and architects who do a very fine job of master plans. At the CASH conference I recently attended, and I also know in the Bay Area a number of other architectural firms who are well qualified to do it. What I hope to do is not only give them notice that we are interested in someone helping us with a master plan, but also publishing in our local newspaper. As you may know, it's not required that we go out to the entire universe when we're seeking professional services. We can develop a list, and we have a committee made up of a few board members and staff, and so we can hear the presentations by the different groups, and then we pare it down to a few finalists, and then we interview them again with their presentations, and make a selection which is then brought back to this board. Our intent is to have this start in May, so we're on a tight timeline because we're trying to get this done within the school year, so that whoever we select will have much of May and half of June while school is in session, and they can continue with some of their work in terms of facilities assessment during the summer, and come back and do community meetings and additional interviews with staff and teachers and principals and community members to come up with a final plan which they would have prepared at the end of the calendar year, sometime in December. That was the time, if you recall, that K&N felt we should by that time have a finished product that we can use should we go after a bond. But it's also timely in terms of anything that we might do for the following year with the remainder of Fund 40 would help us in prioritizing those things too, give all of us some guidance. So the master plan really is a essential part of our future for the district's facilities, and for our learning environment. So I urge you to approve the request for proposals. That'll set us on our way to getting this job done this year.
I just had one question. Thank you for putting this together so quickly after our workshop. I just want to confirm that the funding source for the architect is from Fund 40.
That is correct. It will be from Fund 40. Correct,
Well,
Fund
show
40.
Line item for contracts.
Right, Fund 40 is where we're going to, and then I believe Canon and Teresa and others have determined its appropriate source of funding.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. I thought it looked great and ready to go, and I don't know how you drafted it in one day.
I actually had 3 of them done.
So if we get a facilities master plan completed by December, we would be okay on our timeline
Correct,
to go out in
Correct.
2018.
that's what Canon told us. The one thing that I would ask the board do is take a look at the schedule, or as we used to say in England, the schedule
On the last page. that's
on the
where I-
last page,
Yeah.
which would call for a special board meeting in order to make this work, April 26th. So we would have a special board meeting. I don't believe it would take very long for the board to consider the recommendation of our committee, which would include a couple of board members, which might be helpful for, I don't know if we want to act on that this evening, but identify who would be a part of that committee, but it would be helpful. So again, you'd have to approve this RFP, which includes that special board meeting on April 26th.
Those were my questions. Been very impressed that we're doing what we said we're gonna do, and you put together a great product. It's an ambitious schedule there to get the firm. Do you think we're gonna get the response we need in that time?
Yeah, I think so. I know of at least 4 of the people who will be among the firms who will be talking to have done an incredible job of developing master plans. One of them that we're going to invite did a master plan for Ocean View in California. It was really an amazing kind of a product that they published on the district's website. They also, the same firm, did Manhattan Beach and Beverly Hills. We also will be inviting our architect of record that has a long history of knowing our district and has also done master plans, and there's several I know that did them for Walnut Creek that we would invite. And there's some other firms I've been in touch with who are quite capable of doing this, so it'd be up to our committee to decide who would best serve the interests and needs of the district.
Sounds like you probably do need at least board direction on the committee. You in here somewhere, I forget where, I guess right at the beginning at 1.1, you talked about who would be on the MFPC.
Yes.
Would that be the same group for the selection? Probably not.
No, not necessarily.
We just need a selection committee.
Right, I have a selection committee concept in mind that was based on some other districts that included representatives from the union, from the teachers, for a couple of principals, a couple of community groups like the parent club, from different schools. So we'd have a mix of schools and parent clubs and others that would constitute the committee and board members.
Probably a coordinating council somewhere in between there too.
Right.
News too.
Right.
This has happened.
have on the preliminary agenda.
We did have it on the agenda.
Yeah, there you go.
In anticipation of this discussion.
I would suggest we approve this request for proposals. I like it a lot. I want to assure members of the audience that we're not, by doing this, saying that we're going out for a bond. We're just looking at what our needs are, trying to understand what money we have, what money we might need in the future, and it is not foreclosing the possibility of going out for a parcel tax, or that's certainly my understanding after our.
Yeah, I want to really underscore that. What I really appreciated about our conversation, that I think it's important the public hear again and again, is that it unfolded in several stages. We know we can't responsibly spend the money we have in the Pulte fund without a clearer plan, because otherwise we're going to spend it in ways that could be undone later, and so we need a plan, bare minimum for that. We know we need one if we go for a bond, but a good portion of our conversation in that workshop was about the interrelationship of facilities bond and parcel tax. And I anticipate, and we talked about the facilities planners having that in mind as they're planning on our facilities, and us having that in mind about what the two mean to each other. If we decide going for a bond, when we poll and start asking the community, we gotta understand how the two affect each other. We just do, because our future is pretty clear about the need for funding. Okay, well,
So I would move that we.
maybe if you public comment first,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and then I'm ready
apologize.
to. Any public comment?
I just want to thank Stuart. I mean, you did it so quick, and I read through it, and it's very impressive. Thank you. Look forward to seeing what they get.
Thank you. So we'll go to Cara's motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we adopt the request for proposal.
I'll second.
That's great, all in, let's pause for a second. Creation of a committee, we're gonna adopt this proposal, and a creation of the committee, do we wanna delegate that to the superintendent with the understanding there'll be 2 board members on it?
Sure. I'm good with that.
All right, so adopting this and understanding that we will have a committee of 2 board members and along the concepts of what Stuart described, appointed by Dr. Seaton, and that we will have this special board meeting
April
on
26th.
this 26th. Everyone's calendars look good for that. Might as well make that all part of the motion.
Okay.
That's seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right. Thank you. Now we go to discussion items, section 9, item A. Budget assumptions.
As I'm preparing for 17-18 budget development, the biggest item I need to tackle is staffing. And what I do is I look at what our current staffing is and what the needs of the district will be. And as this moment in time, breaking it down by area in classroom teacher staffing, I anticipate that at the elementary level that we'll have the same teachers, the same number of teachers from 16-17 to 17-18. There is a slight difference at the Orinda Intermediate School, and that is due to a decrease of 0.67 FTE in instructional programs, one of a 0.5 FTE and one of a 0.17, so for a total of 0.67. But that was the only change that I see for the classroom. And it stays within our staffing ratios per contract. And looking at other site certificated staff, I do not anticipate any changes. That's in the areas of music, the library, and art, PE, and principals, counselors. There will be no change in that area. For the district level certificated staff, there is an increase of 1.0 FTE, and that's for a behaviorist. And the behaviorist will be funded by one-time mandated costs. For another item I have as a discussion item is the mandated cost 3-year plan, and you'll see for the 17-18 and 18-19 year, this being funded or being increased. That's the only change in the district level certificated staff. For classified staff, there is no change in the area of instructional assistants, library technicians, school clerks, and secretaries and custodians. However, as we move into the 17-18 year, there may be some, slight changes in instructional aides, as a majority of those are, well, they're all paid by Parents Club, so those will be reviewed and looked at. But as of now, there's no anticipating of reducing or increasing. For district-wide classified staff, there is also no change. We currently have 20.17 and will remain at 20.17, and that includes many positions here at the district office, technology, payroll, maintenance, grounds, the directors, and the administrative areas. So looking at total on the end of the bottom of page 3 of 4, you see from 16-17 to 17-18, there's a total decrease of 0.67, and that includes the 1.0 behaviorist and a decrease of 0.67 in the instructional programs at OIS. And so a total overall increase of 0.33. That is the only change in the staffing. But I do want to reiterate on page 4, just not to frighten you again, but just looking at the stirs and purrs and just seeing that by 2021, we're expected, 24.9% of every dollar in classified is going to PERS, and 19.1 of every dollar in certificated is going to STIRS. Just wanted to just show that I am aware and that I'm projecting all this into the budget, and these there really isn't much change in staffing. And you may have heard, many districts are going through and they're actually cutting out many positions. But we're okay for 17-18 regarding the number of FTEs, other than what I just had mentioned regarding the behaviorist and the 0.67 reduction at OIS. So that was what I'll be using for assumptions for going forward for 17-18. If there are any changes, this will be reflected and brought back to the board for when you review the proposed budget. But so far, this is what I'll be using. Is there any questions regarding that discussion item?
So thanks for putting this together, Teresa. I just have one question about the instructional assistant staffing at each of the school sites. On page 2? Sorry, yes. No, it's on page 3. Got it. Sorry. Very top. There you go. And I see the numbers haven't changed, but I'm just wondering how those are determined. I'm just looking at Glorietta, having the lowest numbers here when they have, the largest student.
We still do have a little difficulty filling the instructional aid positions. Some are still open. I'm only reflecting positions that are filled right now, and that we anticipate to fill the same amount. However, the need may be greater, but right now, this is what the Parents Club is funding, and what we're able to fill.
line chart of the special services assistant and instructional assistant special ed, can you just kind of explain a little bit why there's such a variance between the school sites?
I might need the assistance of Ms. Woodman.
So the category of special services assistant is when you have a student at a school who's assigned someone to support them through, maybe throughout the day or at certain parts of the day. And it just depends on where they go to school.
How is that different than the instructional assistant?
So the instructional assistants are assigned to the resource teachers, and
Okay.
each
And they're
resource
assigned to-
teacher has one who works with he or she primarily.
So why
And
is
then
that
there are
zero?
3 at OIS, 3 resource teachers at OIS, and each of them has an instructional assistant in their classroom.
Why is that zero, what Wagner mentioned, CPL?
It's no longer 0, that position has been filled, but it falls under the special services assistant because that particular person has the classification that pays more to allow for more flexibility in their daily duties, because there are also students that require the close supervision, and that's not all day long. So part of the day that person will do that job, and then part of the day that person will support the resource teacher in an administrative way.
So when students leave an elementary school who had a full-time assistant and move into OIS, the numbers can change, but you don't budget for that change. Is that a fair characterization?
It's really interesting what goes on over the summer. People coming and going and kids coming and going. It's hard to know until you actually,
So you don't look like, oh, there are 3 kids at Del Rey who are 5th graders, who, I'm making this up, who have special service, who have full-time assistants with them. They'll be entering OIS next year, so we will account for that in our budgeting.
you mean as though get rid of those positions?
in-
Because I can guarantee you there are 3 more kids coming up who will have even greater needs than the ones who are leaving. So it's not the trend is quite the opposite.
And then they would be shifted to a different school site if necessary.
If necessary, they get reassigned, depending on where the kids land over the summer. And requests too, sometimes, transfer requests.
So I'd look at it also globally, as you had mentioned on a particular school site, this is what we have, but when we're looking at the overall needs and how it changes, it typically doesn't change going down, it usually goes up. So we're at least budgeting for what we know we have right now, and as I had mentioned, if we get new information or new requirements for staffing, that will come before the board.
Okay. Do we have comments from the public? There's no action to be taken.
Morning, President Johnson. I just want to ask, I'm sorry, I made a statement. With the behavior specialist coming out of mandated cost, I guess I can assume that's just a 1-year position? Or, I guess, we have a position being paid for at mandated cost for 2 years, so I was just curious about that. Because it looked like it was not coming out of the general fund from what I heard earlier. So we're just curious.
Someone want to ask the questions?
Is that behavioral specialist a 1-year opportunity, or is that?
The behavior/psychologist is 2 years, 17, 18, and 18, 19. We were planning to have the position in 16, 17, but it didn't come to be. It wasn't something that didn't happen for 16-17, but we know will happen for 17. Will happen for 17-18. So we actually, I don't know if we can say saved 1 year cost,
That
but
is coming out of mandated.
yes, and it is, yeah, one-time monies, and it will be for 2 years, the 17-18 and 18-19.
Right. Any other board questions? Not? We'll stay with Teresa for budget enrollment projections.
Another big item next to staffing is what we intend to do when we're projecting our enrollment. Right now, we know how many kids are attending Orinda, but then it does take a little bit of analysis to project out for the next 2 years. So right now, total enrollment for, as of the October enrollment history, we are at right now 2538. And as you can see, we've had some increase in 11, 12, but then kind of just making our way a little bit up and kind of flat overall. Looking at kindergarten enrollment, this is always one of the harder ones to project. And I didn't do an analysis of TK because we've only had it for a couple of years, and I can kind of estimate that about 50 students. But when we're looking at kindergarten enrollment, our 8th graders are leaving to the high school and the kindergartners are coming in. It does seem to be somewhat consistent between 30 and 40 students here and there, but it's always not in easy little pockets between the 4 elementaries. So we're currently at 262, and 1st through 5th grade, over the years it's up and down, and it's actually going down. And overall, when you look at 1st through 5th, we're at 1353. And when you're looking at just OIS, OIS is in the last 3 years going down a little bit. So, but we're averaging about 893 students, but it is on a downward trend. So when I take what I know from the past and where we're at right now, and to project the next 2 subsequent years, I am conservatively budgeting for 17-18, 25-23, which is a decrease of 15 students. And of course, they don't come in little pockets of exactly 15 for a classroom, so you could do a combo class or something. It's just kind of spread out through all the different grade levels. But as you can see, from 14-15 through 19-20, our biggest increase in students was in 14-15 of 47, but then it was 8, and then it was 1 for 16-17. So we're not seeing large amounts of students coming through the district. So this will be looked at closely as we get more information and we move through the 17-18 year. And once the students actually show up and are sitting in their desks, and I'll bring back information, but to be conservative and to be able to build a budget. One of the areas that you do not want to overestimate or be too aggressive in is in your enrollment. And I think this is a pretty good number, considering we do have some decreases in some areas. And then an increase of 10 in 18-19, and then I'm just basically saying flat enrollment for the 3rd year out. It's just, we just don't have the numbers that are generating these huge amounts of increases every year. So for 17-18, based on 2,523 ADA will receive $18.8 million in LCFF funding, which will be 61, almost 62% of our budget. And as I get more information, that decrease of 15 students, may, I hope, that will go away and we'll, get some students. But until I can be confident in any of that information, I just would, I feel confident in these numbers that projecting, considering just the history and where we're at right now. And we continue on a every other weekly basis, meet with leadership team, and then I also look at enrollment and talking with the school sites on a weekly basis through the school secretaries, just asking, what's going on with TK and K, so we can prepare if we do need to get a classroom at Glorietta. So it's just a constant monitoring at this point.
So I have a question. On this chart, the 17-18 budget assumption, you have listed here enrollment for 2016-17 for the 4th grade class is 307, but then the projection for 5th grade for the next year is 261. I'm trying to understand where 40 of those 4th graders went.
Well, there's a couple of different
That's just the one number that out of the school chart.
for 17-18, looking at enrollment as a whole, I use demographics and also information that I have at the district level. But you are true. If I were to use a true cohort and move classes through, it would be, you would see more of a correlation. But until I get those numbers more solidified and working with the leadership team as to the total enrollment for the district, these numbers will change from the different grade levels, and then hopefully overall the district will have an increase. But at this point in time, 17-18 is just projected a decrease of 15. And that was a conservative, considering that when we look at moving forward, taking their current students now and moving them forward, it could be at different grade levels. And I'm actually, working with the school sites now, and it's a much larger decrease. And I just couldn't see I don't see that happening based on just the history of Orinda. But I think 15, a decrease of 15 overall is okay. But you probably will see changes within the grade levels.
If you just did it as a true cohort, so you're dragging and dropping.
It's about 70 students.
Why? Because you have some kindergarten projections that are lower?
It's 8th graders moving out, kindergartners moving in. But, we are currently, assessing those numbers on a daily basis for TKK. We're just not reaching those numbers quite yet right now.
And Teresa, if I may, I think too, the demographic company that we've used, we've had some questions about, and I believe our contract is up with
Yes.
them this year, so I'm planting some seeds with some other superintendents to see if there are firms that specialize in small districts, because we have some unique features that larger districts don't have. And Raymond actually has a little expertise in this area, one of many hats, former lives that he's lived in, and he talked about that, when you really look at the analytics that go into this, that small districts have a unique set of features, and we really want to find a company that can give us more accurate, I think, projections than what we have seen from the company we've
Yes.
been using.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
We've had this discussion
Yes.
with the board, that you felt that our numbers have been off, and if what I'm reading, what you said to Hillary, is the best you can do with this column is taking those projections, and then you're going back and trying to fine tune it based on what you're hearing from each
And
campus.
so, you know, so the demographics is saying a decrease of 15 students. They may not be in the right grade level, but based on, you know, the history and where we're at and what I'm seeing right now, it's a good number to use right now, considering moving forward into 18, 19, and 19, 20, I'm using like a 3-year average to where we're looking at in 18, 19, a 3-year average comparing to the demographic study said it was a lot more than what I would even consider using. So, you know, but I feel comfortable with this just because looking at the history of Orinda and where we have been total, it's not, you know, too far off on the total side, but I do want to see more of our information that's coming through registration and see, you know, how this is coming to be. Now, these are just preliminary numbers. The numbers that I'll actually build into the budget may change, but for right now, this is, you know, something I can utilize as a preliminary tool. But I'll bring back more information as we get better numbers.
Any more questions from the board? Comments from the public? There's no action here. So we're going to keep in our conversation. Mandated costs 3-year plan update.
Okay. Okay, are you pulling up the one that says revised?
And I believe this one is the one that says
Okay.
revised.
At the very bottom, you could see a date and it'll say the word revised. Yes, thank you. So I originally put an exhibit in, and since then, we did have 2 line item changes, and I can point them out so that you can at least, it's, I think, number 12, line item 12, and line item 13. The Red Schoolhouse ORS program is something we're currently using, and going into the next, which is $10,937, and going into the next 2 years, you'll see as one of the items on the agenda, a consent agenda item for Illuminate, because it's no longer being supported through the Red Schoolhouse ORS, so we're going to do a new contract for the next 2 years, and that'll be $15,222. And the other item, number 13, the Silicon Valley Mathematics Institute. This was based on input and information, so I wanted to make sure that it was clearly listed on here too. Oh, and it was and the first year why it's blank is because it was formerly funded by the block grant. And you can see in the first column, I recognize where it was previously funded. So as we start to look at the 3-year mandated cost plan and then how we're using it and then how it will be phased out, we can look back to see, you know, was this working? Is this something we want to continue? If we do continue, where was it previously funded from? So there really hasn't been much changes. This is a guide that is tied closely to the LCAP. As you can see in the second column, it has the LCAP goal. So everything that's in the 3-year mandated cost plan is associated with the LCAP and how we are assessing the needs of the students and professional development of the staff. As you can see, the top section were more or less essential needs. And throughout the 3 years, the cost is anticipated to be $668,000. There are some to be determined and some negotiated items in there that as more input is brought forward and stakeholders meetings are held, and it's tied to the LCAP. You will see if it is going to be used again or not. And this is the most current information that we have so far as to if it is moving forward to the next year, or we're changing or doing something else, or if it was only for 1 year. On the second half of the 3-year mandated cost plan, it was other items. They weren't essential, but they were other items that the stakeholders felt that was very important to have. And over the 3 years, there's a total of almost $882,000 worth of professional development, materials and resources and support. When you take the essential needs and the optional stakeholder input needs, the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the total projected revenue is $1.9 million, basically $2 million. And this 3-year plan is taken into consideration $1,549,830, which leaves a balance of $428,833. As I had mentioned, some of the items have a to be determined. If it is through the LCAP process and the stakeholder input meetings, if it is to be determined to continue those TBDs, they total $391,707. That's what the estimated TBD items are. So we have enough monies, if the input comes back that these programs are working, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, or we want to expand them and continue another year, the mandated cost plan can capture those costs. Because some of the items were, low, well, let's see, let's do it for this year and then see about for next year. So there's enough monies in the mandated cost to cover this. And, just to bring it, give you just a little bit of history, but the mandated cost money was supposed to reimburse the district for things that the district had paid. There are a few mandates the state imposes on the schools that do not come with any extra monies to implement. So the state would have the districts go through a mandated cost report and expense report and ask for the money back. Well, it's been years. The state hasn't been reimbursing us for anything, but they're paying us pennies on the dollar through one-time monies that the state is actually saying it'll be applied towards your mandated cost money that we owe you. So what's interesting is charter schools who don't have to do mandated costs also get this money, but they don't get it applied to they don't have any mandated cost reimbursement money, but they get this money. So we do receive the money from the state. It is one time. It is applied to our outstanding mandates that they owe us, but then they also give us a little parameters. Use this to help you with instruction and professional development and deferred maintenance, because these are the things that the state is not addressing through any categoricals anymore. As you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, I put a note that there's a loss of revenue of $766,000 just in 3 items per year that we lost, which was Common Core money, instructional materials, fund money, Tier 3 flexibility, professional development. There was a lot more other categoricals that we lost, but these were some major ones that were assisting with the curriculum and instruction department to help fund what was essential and needed for the kids and for professional development. And at this point, those monies were lost, and the state came up with this brilliant idea that, let's give them one-time monies and make it offset their mandated costs that we owe them. And of course, we're not going to say no because we need the money. So we do receive this one-time money, and we do have a small block grant that we receive money from. All of this together is $2 million, which is a nice chunk of change and well thought out through stakeholder input and tied to the LCAP. So I just wanted to be able to bring this back to you and let you know that we are on target. In fact, I had another item, which was the financial report. So I could show you, you know, that was the actual report. This mandated 3-year cost plan was, you know, is the plan, but I wanted to, there's another item on the agenda that you can open up, Dr. Seaton. There's a financial report tied to the mandated, and it just basically saying, you know, since 15-16 and going forward, because 15-16 was our first year where we actually received the money, and we did spend a little bit in books and supplies, but we ended 15-16 with $1.3 million. And now that we're in the 16-17 year, carrying over our beginning balance, adding in any new revenues we received, and then what we spent out, we do have $1.3 million as an estimated ending fund balance that we anticipate to end this year, which is well on track with serving the needs of that 3-year plan. So not only are we looking at the plan and projecting out what costs will be, but we're actually looking at, you know, what monies are in our budget and what have any contracts we've encumbered or any salaries or stipends. So we're on track, and we're able to assist the classrooms in professional development and learning based on LCAP needs. Did anyone have any questions about mandated cost?
Questions from the board? Comments from the public? Teresa, I want to thank you again for laying this out. I think these reports are very thorough. I'm not sure we've had as thorough a breakdown of this in the past, so I appreciate it. Thank you for keeping us informed.
Thank you, and I have the next item too.
We're going to keep talking budget.
Teresa's go tonight.
Parcel tax.
Parcel tax. We do have a parcel tax committee based on, oops, let me just pull this up, because I can't see it from there, but, oh, I did a presentation and I attached it.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Look at you, all right.
Oops, and I just,
I'll pull it up.
okay. It's so funny. Okay. So, because the actual report, which is in the in your board docs, is available to read, but I just wanted to give some highlights and then also provide information. We do have like I mentioned, we have a parcel tax committee of 5 members, and they basically review our finances to make sure we're spending the parcel tax monies as what is stated in our parcel tax voter documentation. And it is also verified by our independent audit firm, Chichilla and Tokunaga. And so the committee meets, and they did have some findings as to the 15-16 annual report, that number one, the funds are being appropriately accounted for by the Orinda Union School District. The parcel tax revenue supports class size reduction, so it's all in salaries and benefits. And the overall budget, this was one of the big items that they wanted to make sure was brought forward to the board, and you understood that as the overall budget of the district increases, the impact of the parcel tax, supporting the parcel tax is decreasing. So we do have 2 parcel taxes, and they do not have an end date, which is very nice of the community. There are 2, one from 2003 of $385, and one for 2009 of $124. But because they're a flat amount, you'll see in one of my other items how that's impacting. And then also, they wanted, the committee wanted me to share the LCFF comparison for Alameda and Contra Costa. They were very surprised when this was shared with the committee, and they wanted to make sure that they knew you, they wanted you to know that they were aware of it and how, that they wanted to make sure it was shared with the community, and the history of our parcel tax. The committee recommends that we publicize, not only publicize and carrying the message throughout the community, but in different ways, on our website, on our information sent home to the parents, in the newspaper, that we have to share how, what the purpose and the importance of this parcel tax is, and that, and how it is more or less the effect of the assistance that we're receiving from the parcel tax is decreasing. So the next page, you may have seen this before, but this was also shared with the Parcel Tax Committee, where it takes all the districts in Alameda and Contra Costa and where the LCFF funding is in relation to districts, and that Orinda is at the end. Now this is the 15-16 target funding of LCFF. As we get more information from the state, we can get current information, but it's not an easy task to do. You would think with all the information they're providing that they would give us our per district information a little bit easier. But they are well aware that the LCFF funding is not providing enough, and that the parcel tax is helping out. And going back to the 32% of our budget is coming from parcel tax, EFO, and Parents Club. And just to provide the history of the parcel tax, where we are receiving from 11-12, given the history, all the way to 16-17, even though we haven't closed our books, but we're more or less done with receiving parcel tax money, from 3.2, almost 3.3 in 11-12 to 3.9 in 16-17, and how it is paying for salaries and benefits. There is a small contracted service because the county treasury collects our parcel taxes and charges us a small fee. But as you look at the very last item, which is the percent of the general fund budget, back in 11-12 it was 14.33%, and for 16-17 it's 12.05%. So that the impact that we're getting from the parcel tax to offset some costs, we're not, it's just going to continue to decrease because it's flat, even though our costs are increasing. So the committee is, is showing that the district's doing well with their monies. They're spending it the way it's supposed to, and that if there's a need, it is in the area of a parcel tax also, as there has been discussion previously. But the committee all signed off on the report, and you may have read already, but I wanted to at least bring the highlights to share. And a committee member would have been here to present the report, but I couldn't get anyone to come at this time. So I said I will do it in their absence. So, but if anyone has any questions about parcel tax or the committee or the annual report.
I just have a quick question on this, on the financial history page, on the parcel taxes, historical with the contributions. So
Yes.
does that reflect an adjustment at the, just explain that.
I would like to explain that to you. When I came on board and I saw that they were doing a contribution to the parcel tax, basically They were taking salaries and benefits of certain people, and whatever that cost to keep class size reduction down, if there wasn't enough parcel tax to cover it, they'd make a contribution from the general fund to the parcel tax, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. You take in your parcel tax money and you spend it on the salaries and benefits, and what you do is you multi-fund. So you would have staffing that maybe is like 80% parcel tax, 20% general fund. And it would come out of the general fund, and the other part's coming out of parcel tax. You don't make a contribution to.
So this is the district making a contribution
Right.
to their parcel tax
So,
fund?
yes, so either way, this cost still comes out the same. Because instead of paying it in the general fund, they were paying it in the parcel tax fund and making a contribution. And I came on board and I saw that and I said, no, that's not the proper way of the accounting for these monies. You take in X amount of parcel taxes and you spend X amount of parcel taxes. You don't contribute to the parcel taxes, and you're inflating. And without seeing any detail, you would say, oh, we had so much revenue that we received. And I said, no, part of that was a contribution, and that's just not the proper way of accounting. So I did stop that. So as you see in 14-15, because I came on board April 2015. So when I saw that, I closed the books in my way of saying it the proper way. Not that it was improper, it's just a different way of accounting. And to me, you're overflating your revenues and your expenditures, because when you just look at, if you were to look at a financial picture and you were just to look at parcel tax and you said, oh, we took in this much revenue, this much expense, you'd have to dig down deeper and say, no, not really, because there was a contribution and it shouldn't have been that way.
Did you adjust the percentages to reflect that, or the
Yes.
percentages skewed by that? So the percentages, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you did that adjustment already, because otherwise that 14.64 could be artificially high because of the
Yes.
contribution. You said,
Yes.
oh, no, I'll, okay.
Yes, I did.
Great.
Does the parcel tax amount go up for new homes built in
No.
Orinda?
Yeah, that's the part of a parcel tax, is that everybody is the same.
I guess
I'll address
that's not what I'm asking.
You get more parcel tax revenue as more parcels are built?
Correct.
Yes,
But not at Wilder, we don't get parcel tax at Wilder?
Because we did it one time.
no,
Developers.
That's
No,
it.
that was developers.
Yes.
That's right.
That's different.
that's correct.
Yeah.
You're still subject to.
That's true,
Parcel
that's
tax.
true.
Well, it should be
Okay.
subject to the parcel tax.
Yes. Yes, yes, we do get parcel taxes, and no, we do not get developer fees.
Right.
Well, we did one time, a long time ago.
So the more homes that are built, it does increase, so it's the amount of revenue we count.
Small increase based on,
Very small.
Right. But that's just trying to understand. Huge amount of new construction.
And, yeah, and if, we could have parcels, but if there's a home on the parcel, we cannot collect. So it could be a parcel in Orinda, but there's nothing on the parcel, because the parcel tax is helping basically the impact of the schools and helping the schools, like class size reduction. You can't help if there isn't any homes to have children in, that we can help keep class size reduction, so.
Right, but when they built the 60 new homes next door here, are those all 60 parcels, then that would be the parcel.
Yes.
and the 16, 17 ones you're projecting, is that, so do you base it on the receipts from
Yes.
December and April?
Yes.
You know, it's good.
So that's about like 99.9% of what we're receiving this year is what I'm showing in 16, 17. If there's a slight adjustment, that could be, I don't know what any other adjustment would come in this late in the year, but that's estimated because it's not final, it's projected.
Well, I have a question. It's a discussion item, but we do have committee recommendations for us.
Yes,
Basically, it's to publicize.
to get the word out.
And we've been doing that every year, we do follow that
feel like we get a press release.
Probably to do the press release, I mean, whether the newspapers actually publish it or not is up to them, but we have press releases, and I believe the superintendent probably sent something out. Maybe in that Orinda, what's the thing that comes out from the city? The weekly email, the Outlook.
I was just gonna ask, I assumed a press release and, you know, a superintendent's update type of thing, but, and then for other avenues as well.
I think they have the newspapers, if you do a little press release, they'll put it in one of their little blurbs.
I think it's something to communicate at the mayor's liaison meeting too. I mean, that's getting to the people who communicate with the other people, and, you know,
Actually,
actually,
yes, we're giving the Outlook, if we have the city to print it out and
Yeah.
the Outlook, that's a good way to reach a lot of people.
I'm wondering if this would be appropriate, but at a city council meeting, in a public comment, or, I don't know.
We haven't done that, but
I think that's a good idea.
I think what, Carol, what you said, definitely, people come with handouts to those mayor liaisons. If you did a press release, whether we do in the next superintendent update too, if we brought one and handed it out,
Yeah,
ask
that
the
would be
city
good.
then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely, we can work on that, we can see what we put out last year, and then make sure that we incorporate the recommendations and go forward.
I think
Yeah.
that there's just a general misconception in our community amongst people who do not have children in our schools, that we're a rich district. And I think that we need to do everything we can, every occasion presents itself
Yeah.
to correct education. Yeah, to educate.
Okay, public comment? We will communicate.
So we don't adopt their recommendation,
Well, that's why I was asking, this was a discussion item instead of an action item. Do we just accept their report?
Yes, you could put it on a future agenda item if there's something that you wanted to particularly address, or just take the recommendation and work with superintendent.
I mean, we'd like to give that guidance. I think, let's do another press release, let's bring it to the mayor's liaison meeting. We've already discussed how we're trying to put together the talking points, you know, for all the budget. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. If you could.
Yes, we are on it.
All right.
That was my last agenda item.
for all of those.
I'm sure you're as tired as we are.
Teresa Hour. We have consent calendar. Anyone want to take anything off the consent calendar?
I would move the consent.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We passed the consent calendar. Which puts us at future agenda items. I've already mentioned one that we talked about in our agenda setting, having 2 other workshops on the horizon, one on special education, the other on technology. And if you'll indulge us, maybe we'll think about whether we can combine that with our new special meeting. And we'll get out some information in the superintendent's update about what that might look like. Is in our 3 months left in the school year, is 2 special workshops, our 2 special workshops acceptable, doable? We can do it. Okay, well then we'll put together a package, and we'll ask different board members to maybe lead on those topics. Great.
When you make some money, you have more openings for special.
Yeah. I just think there are these topics we want to delve deeper into, and that's the best way for us to do it.
And then that OPEB direction to do some.
Yes.
For that.
Let's put that on the next agenda for sure.
The nature area committee, because the board needs to approve the membership. So, I think that,
And we should also have a charge Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes, we can definitely, I can provide that and ask my co-chairs to be here as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate
It
that.
sounds like they're ready to make a,
Well, we have, it's been a great process, and I think they'll be able to share some good information. They're not ready for any substantive changes, I think, right now, but the discussion has been rich, and I think they see a real need for some kind of change to maximize our fundraising. We haven't defined exactly what that looks like, but I think there are some recommendations that we've kind of come to resolution on, and others that we're still working through. It will take some time.
Thank you. So it was a rich discussion.
yeah.
Ha, you like that?
But it seems like with some real advancement, on what we heard at coordinating council, some real consensus that wasn't there before.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And then I think the other item that we've got to tackle, I wanted to ask, since we're in open session, the board resolutions on inter and intra, such a big topic. I think there's still some work being done on it. Do we want to try to tackle that in a regular meeting? Okay, so maybe that's on our agenda.
Yes.
If you think it can be ready.
I think so.
That's a lot. We did have a public request about the electoral college. Does anyone have interest in that topic? On the board?
Feels a little political for our board to me. I mean, we're a community that is fairly well divided in our political views, and to me, that just is more political than educational, and I like to focus on what's best for our kids.
School boards are apolitical.
That's my goal.
My makeup, I mean, that's, we're supposed to be for politics. I just don't think it's appropriate.
That's how I feel.
I would agree.
Right. It might be something for the students to debate in the students' program.
Sure, that would be great.
There you go.
Okay. I think we need to move to closed session. Do we have any? No, let's adjourn the meeting to closed session. Do I have a motion? Second.
We have to come back and
Move to
adjourn.
Oh, no, you're right. We can't adjourn yet. So we'll adjourn into closed session.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for sticking around.
And if people want to stay around, come back. To adjourn. Staff should not.
Even Jen and Shannon